will not be reliable for the foreseeable future, right? But before we go there, let me just hear from Dr. Shem Ochodo, just to get an introductory remarks, and Bunyasi Sakwa. Good morning, Shem.
Morning, Jabal.
Yes.
Nice to see the team again. Congratulations, engineer, for the golf tournament.
Yeah, thank you. Did you go yourself? You're not a golfer, are you?
No, but I'm so excited it's raining in Nairobi.
How has it changed now to raining from golf? That shift.
We needed rain on the golf course before, but it never happened. But
it is a great connection.
It was a perfect timing, just before.
That's right. No, Jabal, delighted to be here. Economic-wise, things aren't too good, but I want to urge our politicians, both in government and outside government, that time for grandstanding is gone. What we need is, as a good friend and colleague, Kitonyi, keeps saying, we need a national economic conference, and probably we need a national conversation. I definitely don't believe in handshakes. I don't believe in dialogue. If there's to be a dialogue, the president needs to have a dialogue with Kenyans. That's what I would say.
All right, thank you. Bunyasi Sakwa, good morning.
Good morning, Alan. Morning, everybody. Good to see you back again. We're going through difficult times, but I think it is a transient season of protests and difficulty. I think if you look at our 10-year economic processes, these kinds of things, you know, we should have known could come, because I think of the weaknesses in governance that occurred when compromises were made without deep discussion, and therefore you're likely to give in this and give in that just to get the day going. I do not believe that we are headed in the right direction with calls of come, let us talk and so on. Then there's no need to have an electoral process completely. We might as well just have a negotiated arrangement like the Chinese had for many years. They still probably do in the Congress Party. It's always about negotiations and in the assembly, and once agreed, leader is chosen. But we can't waste time going through elections, getting people to think they are choosing leaders, and shortly after that, nothing happens. So I think I do hope that this season we'll ride out this season, and then we can begin to deal with the harder issues of the economic challenges that we've got. An economic challenge in the history of a country is not a big deal. 10 years later, nobody will remember that we had a particular difficulty in these 6 months and so on. But while you're living through it, it is painful and it is difficult. But I would hope that now we also use it as a lesson for underhand dealings in the economy to be minimized or perhaps even eliminated. That's all I can say. So I am suggesting there's a lot underneath the table, and there is on the table, and I think it's time to be open and to begin to deal with, but not. Unfortunately, although I'm a pragmatic person, I do not think it's a time to negotiate deals yet again. We will just be pulling the problem, pulling it under the rug, as it were, trying to hide it.
Okay. So what about, so you are really against the protest, but that seems to be...
No, I'm not against the protest.
You're not
People can
against...
protest. I'm against seeking to reach compromise because somebody has protested. We can't run a democracy like that. We can't run an economy like that. That's the problem, because this then will become... the other day, I had yesterday somebody saying, oh, remember when we had this outcome, there was a mandamano, there was a mandamano here. Then instead of having elections, let's go that route, and then we can elect leaders, we can resolve problems through that route. I don't think it's a good route, no.
It's not a good route?
No.
Okay, let's hear from Anthony, just to give us a feel and flavor of where they're coming from, and just give us a landscape also of the manufacturing sector, how they're bracing for all these challenges ahead of them.
Yeah. Thanks, Dubal, and we're just coming out from what we call trilemma. The drought, wetting drought,
yes.
Which has been really a drag on the economy. We are still in the middle of Russia and Ukraine conflict that has disrupted global supply chains. You can see the cost of food items in Kenya now because of that. Fertilizer, fuel. We're coming from, still recovering from the effects of COVID-19, and that's what we call trilemma. And then now we are faced with new challenges that continue to make us kind of now step very close to the cliff. We're talking about the dollar shortage,
yes.
Which is now this crisis level. As you may know, 80% of the raw materials, both primary and intermediate, they are imported. We are again in a very tight physical space that we are always very close to a disaster. You get one disaster like COVID, we fall off the cliff. We have now hitting our political market. We are not the best people to talk about the political market, but it has a direct bearing on the economic market, yes, where we operate. So manufacturing has been kind of sustaining the economy. If you look, you go to any supermarket, you go to any shop, you go to any kiosk across the country, you will find manufactured goods.
Yes.
But we have been, of course, having challenges all the way from 2011, declining the contribution to GDP from 11.16% to the GDP in 2012. Now we are at 7.2%. Right? So there are efforts that we've taken or actions that we are taking together with the government to look at how do we drive that 7.2% to 20%. Is it doable? And I think as we go down the show, we'll be able to demonstrate some of those issues, the initiatives that we've taken. But we are in the middle of a perfect storm.
A perfect storm. Yeah. And is it safe to be in the eye of a storm? That's where you can actually get safety. Yeah. Let's hear from Patrick Ubatha. So far, it's been piling up, it's been loading, it's been, of course, written on the wall. Finally, we will have it. And I don't know if that is very providential for many countries. South Africa, we've seen Nigeria as well. They've chosen March 20th as a protest day. Because of these issues that we can allude to externalities, and some are also to issues around governance here in the country as well. Your take?
I think, for me, protest is, okay, it's one of the methods of people expressing themselves. But we know in this country that whenever that happens, we get disaster.
Yes.
The word peaceful protest in Kenya does not exist, in my view. Protests in these countries have always turned into riots, and people have been tear gassed and whatever. And from that point of view, I don't think it's the right thing to do, because you're putting lives at risk, and you're spending all this, police time and everything else, and ammunition and all that kind of stuff,
yes,
on quelling riots. If we had the reality of peaceful protests in this country, yes, it would be great. India is a place where peaceful protests are a very, very powerful tool. You find citizens, 1 million, 500,000 of them gathered on the street, end to end, so that you can't even walk on the edge. So the police can't even find their way to try and get into that place. And the policemen are there just watching. They dare not do anything. And there, I think, is because the shoe is on the other foot. If the policemen dare to attack the crowds, they're done, because they're just sheer numbers of people. But that's peaceful protest. So I agree with my colleague, Dr. Shem, here, that we need to start a different type of dialogue in this country, completely political dialogue. Grandstanding isn't the way, and grandstanding is not just at the top level. Grandstanding is all the way down the political the political environment in Kenya. Every time you find the elections are going on, it's all about grandstanding, right? And I believe if we stop grandstanding and we really start talking about issues and go to issue-based politics without grandstanding, then I think we'll make this country will go a long way. I was listening the other day to a very interesting technology that they've developed in Taiwan, which they call digital democracy, where, I mean, they're using algorithms and everything else, but you can get 20, 30, 100,000 people debating an issue digitally. And as they talk, the algorithms begin to build a consensus based on what what people are putting in digitally. And you find that once that has happened, that data is then given to Parliament to give Parliament a feel for what people think. And I think that is something that we should actually look at in this country, bringing in digital democracy. I mean, everybody's got smartphones, whatever, and everything else. So bringing in a system that allows people to debate without shouting at each other in rallies would be a great thing. So I'm a firm believer always in digital technology, and the issue of going to the streets. How long are people will go to the streets in politics? I think from the birth of politics, that has been the case. We need to move on to a different dispensation in terms of the way we dialogue on issues. And I believe digital democracy is the way to go.
But they'll tell us, protest is as old as our constitution is.